Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my podcast. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I've been sort of fascinated by this case in the Bahamas for a while. The Bahamas, not far from where I live here in Florida. The case of Lindsay Shiver, the Georgia beauty queen, who's accused of conspiring with her Bahamas lover to hire a hitman to kill her husband, Robert Shiver. He is an ex-football player, also from Georgia. The trial in this case was supposed to start right around this time, but it's been delayed again, and I'm digging into the entire case for this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm joined by Daily Mail senior reporter Ben Ashford, also my friend. If you've been watching the podcast since I started a couple of weeks ago, this is now Ben's second episode, so he's going to be a regular, I hope. But I wanted to talk to Ben about this case in the Bahamas because he was actually supposed to be in the Bahamas right now. The trial was supposed to start for Lindsay Shiver. And I was actually planning to go too. I haven't covered the case yet. Ben has been extensively, really since the beginning. How many times to the Bahamas have you been?
Maybe like 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, so you're really an expert on this case. And I do want to go when the trial starts, but it's now been pushed back.
It's been pushed back to March 2026, so that will be 2 years exactly after the date when it was originally supposed to happen. But I guess, just to make you aware, in the Bahamas, they tend to say that if you get your trial within 3 years, that's a good result, or that's seen as reasonable. I have heard of murder cases taking 10 years to get to trial.
Wow.
So if you're asking me, am I confident we'll be there in March next year? No, I don't think so. This case just keeps getting pushed back and back, which is obviously a lot of anguish for all the people involved. But that seems to be the way it is in the Bahamas.
So let's go back for people who aren't that familiar with the story. And there's this body camera video, which I'm going to play you a big chunk of it in a second, which kind of shows the dynamic of this relationship. But take me back. Lindsay Shiver, Robert Shiver, Lindsay Shiver, beauty queen. From...
She was a cheerleader. She met Robert at Auburn University. He was the captain of the football team. She was, I'd say, a cheerleader. They were dating at university. They married in 2010. And, you know, on the face of it, they were a sort of golden couple. He was the football star. I think he did sign with an NFL team as a free agent, but he never made the cut, or he was dropped. But he went on to have a very successful career, I think, in insurance. And his family have got money. And they were, you know, like a golden couple. She was the archetypal Southern belle. He was the captain of the football team. They had this beautiful house in Thomasville, Georgia. They still got it. It's still part of the divorce. 3 young kids. They had everything. They looked like a perfect couple. They had this very saccharine, sweet image on social media, but behind the scenes, it was all falling apart. So the first kind of fissure in their relationship is Robert applied for divorce in April 2023. He said in the divorce that she had been unfaithful to him. She countered that he had basically committed some sort of domestic violence, although she seemed to, I believe that the wording was sort of emotional violence, not downplaying that, but and so they had this messy split. And what lay behind that, we would later find, is that she was having this relationship with a younger man in the Bahamas.
And they had a house in the Bahamas, right?
Yeah, so they had a house in Baker's Bay in the Abaco Islands, and it's a very swanky resort. It's on a little private island. You've got people like Tom Brady, J-Lo, A-Rod. They're the sort of people that have holiday or vacation homes there. You have to get like a private boat there. It's, you know, really nice. But there's on the island, there's just one bar that's outside of Baker's Bay, and that's Grabbers, and that's where Adrian lived. Adrian Bethel is the guy she was having an affair with. So she replied in her divorce papers, she said that they had separated when she had the relationship and that he condoned the relationship. So she was basically saying he knows it all happened after we split, the marriage was crumbling. She never denied the relationship, and of course she went on to be linked with Adrian via the whole scandal, the whole crime, and they're still co-defendants in the trial. So that's the background. They had this perfect marriage, but behind the scenes
Adrian
it was
is,
crumbling.
which we'll get to, Adrian is the man who she was having an affair with.
He was a barman at Grabbers, and he was the guy. He's about 10 years younger than her. He grew up in the Bahamas, local guy, and he's the barman, boy toy, lover, boyfriend that essentially she left Robert for.
Okay, so they filed for divorce. They're in the process of getting divorced.
Yep.
Are they still living together in Georgia?
Yeah, so if you fast forward to July 2023, Robert is flying to the Bahamas with the 3 children for a vacation. And Lindsay tells him that she wants to get a ride, but not to spend time with them, to hang out with Adrian.
She actually says that?
Yeah. Because what happens was they then have a bus stop right outside their house in Georgia, and they call the police. It's the sheriff's department turns up, and she says to the deputy, she says, "Oh, we still live under one roof. We're going through a divorce. It's hell on earth." And she says that she sort of complained, very entitled. If you listen to it, she's like, "Well, I want to be on the yacht. I want to be on the jet. I want to go and see my boyfriend. He won't let me." And these 2 deputies are sort of looking at one another like, "What is this?" And she accuses Robert of pulling her stuff out of the car and pushing her aside and being aggressive.
Yeah, let me cut you off from. I want to play you guys some of this video because it kind of sets up the whole scene of the dynamic of the relationship. Watch this body camera video.
Okay, so what's going on this morning?
So for the last 3 weeks, maybe longer, she's had her couples trip planned with her boyfriend to go to Key West.
Okay, but she just said you're going.
That was to Key West.
They don't.
I'm taking my kids, my 3 boys, to the Bahamas this morning.
Our kids.
Our kids. Yesterday, she sent a message saying that she's going to change her plans and now get on the airplane with me and the kids to go to the Bahamas.
But I own 2,
And
by
when
the
we
way.
land, she's going to go to her boyfriend.
Elsewhere.
And me and the kids are going to our house. And I told her I'm not supporting that. And you're not getting on the airplane. That can mess with the kids' heads. And it's just something we're not going to do. Well, I own 50% of an airplane. She, on paper, owns 25 of that. And majority owner, the other 50% owner, and myself are both in agreement to not have her on the airplane. So 75% says, we don't want you on the plane.
That doesn't mean you get aggressive, push me out of the way,
Push
start
you-
unloading my car.
Push you out of the way.
Yes, at
Lindsay.
the back of the car. I mean, I can't tell her she can't go on vacation with you, okay?
I understand that.
It's marital property.
My pilot already said
Okay,
it's too late to even put her on the list.
It's all gonna that's all gonna be civil issues. I can't stop her. I can't say you can't go wherever the heck it is you want to go. I can't tell you. You can tell. That has nothing to do with what we're doing here. We're here because of acts of violence, to calm the situation. That's what we're here to do, okay?
Okay, so that was the body camera video. You can see that they're clearly in a bad place, the relationship.
Yeah.
And what happens after this?
I think, by the way, in the footage, I don't know if it in the clip you showed, but one of the deputies says, "I don't think you guys should be going on vacation together," which, given then what happens in the next sort of couple of days after that, is quite ironic. So, as best I know, Robert flies to the Bahamas. He flies, I think, into Marsh Harbour, and Lindsay gets down there by some other method, probably a JetBlue flight or, you know, American Airlines and what have you. The order of this is important. So she fires off some messages to Adrian. I'll read you the messages if you like. Well, we don't know what she says to him, but Adrian then messages his best friend, his school friend, Farron Newbold. Farron is the hitman. So you see all these headlines about, you know, the Southern Belle, the football star, the barman, the hitman. Farron's the hitman, but he doesn't look like a hitman. You know, he's got a job for the power company. His dad is like a local politician. He's a music producer. So again, quite a respectable looking guy, grown up in the Bahamas. So the messages, Adrian messages Farron this N-word, rolled up on Lindsay and wouldn't let her on the plane, and he put his hands on her. I am about to come out of retirement for this N-word. He is flying from Baker's Bay. She is thinking about letting me kill him, but he has the kids. So she's upset with Robert. She's sending messages to Adrian, and this is what he tells his best friend, okay? Now, this is where things get complicated, so bear with me. The night before, on the 15th, 16th of July, 2023, there was a break-in at Grabbers. That's the bar by Baker's Bay where Adrian works nights.
Okay.
So
Is this close to their house in the Bahamas?
Yes, yeah. This is just outside the complex. There's one bar where the kind of regular people hang out, and that's Grabbers. You obviously need to be living in Baker's Bay, need to be rich or a celebrity to get in there, but there's this one drinking spot outside it. So there's been a break-in the night before, and Adrian was working behind the bar, and the police suspected it was like an inside job because someone had the code to the safe or something like that. So the day Robert is flying down to the Bahamas, Adrian gets picked up by the police. He denies robbery, he denies stealing from the bar, and he's never been accused of that, he's never been charged with that. So there's no reason to think he ever did that. But they take his phone away. So they take his phone, they get his WhatsApp password, and they keep the phone.
As part of the investigation into
part of the
robbery.
investigation. And then they release him later that day.
Okay.
In the meantime, Lindsay can't get hold of him. So she's annoyed because of what's happened with Robert, with the jet. She's traveling to the Bahamas, and suddenly she can't get hold of Adrian. But what does happen is that night, someone in the bar sends 2 pictures to Lindsay, and we've got those pictures, we've run them in the Daily Mail. And it's Robert, he's arrived in the Bahamas, he's in Grabbers, the bar where Adrian would normally work, but he's not there that night because he's had all that involvement in the police, of Robert propping up the bar with another woman. We don't know if there's anything, could have just been friends, they're not kissing, anything like that, but he's standing by the bar with another woman. And a picture of that gets sent to Lindsay. And Lindsay sends the picture to Farron Newbold, the hitman, sends the picture with the words, "Kill him." Now, police only discover this plot a few days later, because if you remember, I told you they had the phone from Adrian because of the break-in.
Right, but they didn't have the hitman's phone.
No, but they have Adrian's phone. So all this would have gone completely unnoticed, but they started, a few days after all this happened, they start randomly going through Adrian's phone, reading his messages to see evidence of the break-in. They don't find any evidence of the break-in, but they find the message that I told you, this N-word rolled up on Lindsay. So they're like, wow, the police are like, there's something going on here. Are they going to kill this Robert Shiver guy? So they go and see Robert Shiver, and he says, she's manipulative. If I were to disappear, She would come into a lot of money. She has had affairs before. She's having an affair with the guy in the bar. And then the police are suddenly thinking, well, this is a serious plot. They're trying to take this guy out. So Robert's now been warned by the police. He's safe. He ends up leaving the Bahamas. But they go and arrest Lindsay. And of course, what do they find? They go through her messages, and then they find the picture and the kill him message. So at this stage, Robert has survived. He's left the Bahamas, and you've got these communications between the hitman, the barman, the Southern Belle, all discussing killing Robert. And that's where the police investigation begins. They charge them with conspiracy to murder Robert.
So the investigation officially begins because they have the text messages.
Yeah.
Robert has gone back to the US at this point.
He's either gone back or he's there, but the point is he's safe now.
And did Lindsay immediately get arrested, or were they just started
She was arrested a couple of days after all this happened. I can give you the exact date here. She was arrested on the 21st of July 2023, for what it's worth.
And you have some insight, some sources about what was going on behind the scenes.
For sure.
They were doing interviews and that kind of thing.
Right. So she gave several interviews. In at least one of these interviews, she said no comment for the entirety of the interview. Another one, she went back and forth with them. And I've got a good idea what's in some of those interviews and what she actually said. So she admitted telling Adrian she wanted to kill Robert, and what she said to the police was, Terence, she would normally call him Adrian, I don't know why she's calling him Terence, that is his name, Terence Adrian Bethel. Terence said that he understood and that he wanted to kill him also. So that was her reply to the police. But then, pretty much in the next paragraph of quotes that I saw, I said it out of anger and frustration because of the incident that happened earlier that morning. And then she was specifically asked, were you guys plotting to kill Robert? And she said no. So think about that for a second. Is that her admitting we've all decided to kill him? Or is that her saying, well, yeah, I did say I want to kill that guy? She was angry, she was letting off steam. She said to them, I want to kill him. But then it seems inconsistent that she can then say, well, I wasn't plotting. But there's a difference between saying, I want to kill someone. Like sometimes I want to kill my neighbor because his music's too loud, as opposed to, I've been sort of spent 3 hours figuring out how to shoot him, which would be very, very different.
Did she have a lawyer? Like, did she just start talking to the police without a lawyer?
I don't know at that stage. She certainly obviously had legal representation when she was charged. Yeah. I don't know is the honest answer whether she had a lawyer in the room with her at that time. She may have done.
So she says all of this in the police interview.
Yeah.
And then is she able to go back to the US, or does she immediately get arrested?
That was the interview after she was arrested.
Okay.
And then she was charged.
Okay.
So she was charged with conspiracy to murder Robert. And then she was sent to Fox Hill prison in Nassau. So they were taken from Abaco to Nassau, and Fox Hill is, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's quite a notorious prison. When you get these TV shows, the world's worst prisons, it's always like one that pops up. It's the State Department has warned Americans, don't get arrested in the Bahamas, you'll end up there. It's rat infested, it's got 6 inmates to a cell. I know that when Adrian was in there, the men's side is a lot worse than the women's side. There's just many more men. But the men have to basically go to the toilet in a bucket in front of everyone and then slop it out. Like it's not, take your worst American prison, it's going to be a lot worse than that.
How long was she there?
Oh, she was there several weeks before she was back in court and then pleaded not guilty. And then the delay was her family had to find an address where she could be bailed to live at in Nassau. So they rented an apartment for her, and she then got bailed out, $100,000 in cash. It's interesting because when we first saw her in court, she had this, I can't remember the brand now, but this specific ornate gold bracelet. And she came out of the prison van wearing that, and everyone's thinking, how come she's allowed to wear that in prison? It just turned out that there's a key for it. It's like I don't know, it's got like a little lock on it, and that they couldn't get it off. So she was in prison the whole time with this like really expensive piece of jewelry on it.
That's weird.
What
about Adrian? Was he?
He got out at that point. He was, because he lives on the Abaco Islands, he had to go back there and report to the police station there. So they were separated at that point, and they would not see each other until a court date. And there was so not that long after the story we did in the Daily Mail, her apartment was broken into, and that was one of the reasons when she went back and asked for bail to be released so she could go back to the United States. That was one of the arguments she used, that I'm not safe here because someone's broken into my apartment. And she wanted, the biggest thing has always been for her to be able to see her 3 kids in the US. So she did eventually, the bail was varied, and she was allowed to wait for trial living in Alabama with her parents. And she still has a GPS tag to monitor her, even from the United States. But she was eventually released to live in the US, which is
where she remains now on bond.
Yeah, which is significant for her because it's already taken 2 years.
Yeah. In terms of the evidence at this stage, so they had the text messages, obviously.
Yeah.
But are text messages enough? I mean, was there any planning? Was there any, like, they went and bought supplies? Was there like a schedule? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I preface this by saying I haven't been inside the police station and gone through the file and looked at everything. I feel I've got a very good idea of what the case is and what it isn't. But there could be elements that I don't know about, right? So you've always got to remember that.
Yeah.
But everything I know about it suggests that it's all about those text messages and that interview where she admits to trying to kill him. Now, I want to explain something really important to you about the penal code in the Bahamas. So I'll actually read you, if you like, the law. I've got this here. So the way the law works in the Bahamas, my understanding of this, is to convict someone of conspiracy to commit a crime, they have to have discussed or plotted or agreed to do with someone else, or done something towards it. So the exact wording is if 2 or more persons agree or act together with a common purpose. So it's agree or act. But in the US and in federally and in pretty much every state that I can find the answer to this question, there are 2 elements to satisfy a charge of conspiracy to do something, or in this case, conspiracy to murder, right? The first thing is you need to conspire. So me and you get together, we decide we want to kill someone, right? Yeah. The second part is we have to do an overt action to put the plan into motion. And that can't be thinking, that can't be talking, that can't even be planning. That has to be a concrete step. So if you think about all these FBI stings they have, right? They might have a terrorist who gets some instructions from a guy in a cave in Afghanistan, and he's told to blow up a federal building with fertilizer or something like this. When you read about these arrests or these cases, it's never the guy gets off the phone to the guy in Afghanistan and they raid the house and that's it. They always wait until he's done something, right? They wait until he drives up to the building with like a trunk full of fertilizer, or he buys a fake bomb from an FBI agent, or he walks in and, you know, the sting happens when he enters the building with the sniper rifle, right? Because they want to satisfy 2 evidential layers, the plot and the overt act.
Yeah. So, and this is a little bit of a turn, but do you remember the Dalia Dippolito case? This may have been before you came here. He's from England, so
Right.
this is a while ago. But I covered it. It was in Florida, and it was this woman who hired a hitman to kill her husband.
Right.
But it ended up being a police undercover operation.
Okay.
And the way that they were actually able to charge her is she had to go as far as to actually pay the person.
Right.
And then they got it all on video. They went and told her that that her husband was found dead. Like, you know what I mean? They had to they had to go to that level. It couldn't have just been talking about it.
Yeah, so perfect illustration, getting the weapon, or all the concrete steps you outlined there, that's the second element.
Yeah.
So they didn't just stop at the planning, they had to wait until something happened. So my understanding of this case, and again, there could be things I don't know about, but this case satisfies that burden theoretically of the planning. I don't know of anything they did that satisfies the overt action. So one of the questions the police asked Lindsay was, did you pay or did you offer Farron money to kill Robert? And she said no comment to that. Does that hint that they've got some further evidence of a bank transfer or a conversation about money? I don't know. I've never seen that evidence, but that might be something a bit more concrete. But everything I've seen, this comes down to just the planning, the plotting, the friends texting one another saying, we hate this guy, let's kill him. And their argument has always been they're just letting off steam. They're just friends talking about hating a guy and wanting him dead. And people do that all the time. That's probably lurking in every other person's text messages at some point. I hate my boss, or that sort of thing. So the police, there's never been any weapon. They didn't break into Robert's house. They weren't surveilling him. As the police intercepted the plot at such an early stage, they hadn't even really seemed to have time to do anything. So the question I think is interesting is, if this was in the United States, would it reach the burden of being chargeable?
Based on and like you said, there might be something you don't know.
Yeah,
but based on, you probably do know everything. But if based on what you know, it doesn't sound like it would reach the burden.
I think in the United States, there would have been some effort to surveil and then capture further evidence of what they were doing.
Yeah.
But they jumped, from their point of view, they had to warn Robert. He's there with 3 young kids, and they went to see him to warn him to make sure he was okay. So I don't know if the police in the Bahamas did anything wrong, but it's just interesting to me that the case seems to be, it satisfies the Bahamas penal definition of conspiracy to do something, but perhaps not the American equivalent. But here's the other significant part. If they've been charged under 2 provisions, and the second provision just says that if you commit murder, you go to prison for life. So when you kind of look at those 2 sections of the penal code in a whole, they are charged, the conspiracy part, the murder part, it all becomes, basically, if they're found guilty of the conspiracy to do the thing being the murder, it doesn't matter whether it's a conspiracy to do something, whether you do it or not, murder is treated the same. So conspiracy to murder is the same punishment as if you murdered the person. So that's a long-winded reply. But essentially, if they're found guilty, they're looking at life in prison.
I mean, life in prison.
Life in prison. And that varies. So that would be decided by the judge. But my understanding is that's 30 to 60 years.
Wow. So this is really serious.
Yeah. And if you're found guilty, they have jury trial there. If you're found guilty, you can appeal, and the appeal eventually ends up in London at the Privy Council, which is the court of final appeal for a number of islands in the Caribbean that were British dominions. But that takes years.
Could there be a plea deal? Do they do that?
The system in the Bahamas is like much more akin to the British system. We don't really have sort of plea deals. I guess that there kind of are deals done in the UK, but not in the same way that they're like commonplace here, but
Yeah.
not really. Certainly not in this case, as I understand it. There hasn't been a plea deal or anything like that.
So the boyfriend and the hitman.
Yeah.
What's the latest? So Lindsay right now is waiting in Georgia on bond, able to see her
Alabama,
kids.
but
I'm sorry, Alabama.
She's allowed to enter Georgia to see the kid. So I understand she is seeing the kids. She's being mum again. She's back on social media. But it has not been plain sailing because basically the end of last year, one of the many times that the trial was supposed to start, this time a fair few American journalists turned up to cover it. They hadn't got the memo that it wasn't starting or what have you. And there was a TV. Are we allowed to say this?
Sure, yeah. I mean, just say what happened.
There was an ABC TV segment.
Okay.
And they, from what it seems to me, they had a sort of canned segment that they were going to run, and the trial didn't take place. So they ran. I don't know if it was what they were going to run on TV, but they ran something.
And Lindsay was in it.
They had a segment where she was sort of posing and some B-roll, and Adrian actually spoke and said a few quotes. And the judge...
Did she speak also?
I don't think she spoke. I think she was just like walking around.
Okay.
The judge went absolutely crazy. So you remember I said the justice system there is much more like the British. So in England, anything that might be evidence going before a jury, you cannot publish, talk about, broadcast before a trial. That would be contempt of court, and that could land a broadcaster or a journalist in prison. So after someone is charged with the offence in Britain, no one says anything about it. And then 9 months later, you have a trial and they report it as if it's brand new news because you can't say anything.
And when you say you can't, you mean the people involved, the defendant, the people who are part of the case.
The media, no one can say anything about a trial. They believe that.
So even if you got leaked documents or something, you couldn't report it?
There wouldn't be any reporting other than such and such has been in court, they're charged with this.
Or what, you would get arrested?
In a month. When you're arrested, there's this brief window where you can say more about the case. Yeah. But when someone's charged in the British system, nothing gets reported until the trial. Okay, it's very, very different. And after she went on the American, I mean, there had been a few interviews and so forth. I'd done an interview with Adrian. This passed into history without the judge, getting annoyed. But this particular segment on TV, the judge got very annoyed and she summoned all the defendants back into court. I think Lindsay actually had to fly back to appear before her in person. And they told the judge that they had contracts to go on TV, but the contract specified that nothing would be run before the trial was finished. So I don't know.
And so what happened to her?
Oh, they were sent back to prison.
Were you there for that?
No, I wasn't there. But
so both of them were sent back to prison.
They're both sent back to prison. Not Farron because he wasn't involved. Yeah. But Lindsay and Adrian were sent back to Fox Hill for going on American TV. And the judge released I've read there's a published verdict or description of what she said. And she accused her of parading in a sundress in front of the international media and spitting in the face of Bahamian justice.
Well, you would think that she would be really careful.
Right.
I mean, she's already in trouble in another country.
Yeah.
You got the bond to go back home and see your kids.
Yeah.
Like, why take any chances?
I think that in that document it also said that she hadn't been adhering to she'd been staying overnight in a different state and so forth.
So she was doing other things wrong too.
I think so, but they seemed to let most of that slide.
Yeah.
Until she went on TV, and that really upset the judge. And then the judge formally put a gag order on everything. So since then, no one's been allowed, none of the defendants or the lawyers, I get probably extends to them, have been able to say anything. So now there's a complete muzzle on all of the people involved in the case talking.
So she ends up back in prison?
Yeah, she was back there for several months. Yeah.
Wow. And then she got bond again to go back home?
She did, yeah. So she's now back home again.
And now everybody just waits for a trial, which has been delayed.
Now it's like, the calm before the storm again. I'd say she's going on social media, and I understand that she's in her children's lives. The divorce is still not settled.
Will they have a jury? Is it a jury? Is that how it works? Do you know?
In Thomas County.
No, I mean in
Bahamas.
She'll have a jury trial.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I say if they're found guilty, they can appeal it, and the ultimate appeal goes to London, and that could, even if it was, if London decided that there wasn't enough evidence or procedurally the case didn't hold up, it could still be like 10 years down the line with the amount of time everything takes. So that's one of the thoughts I have about the case is it ever going to go to trial? I mean, I've always wondered if they're just going to drop it, because you have to ask, whose interest is it in? Now, again, with a big disclaimer, there could be something I don't know about. But Robert's safe. There wasn't actually a material attempt on his life. I've always felt there was some bad behaviour, like people being selfish, entitled behaviour, the marriage. It was a very strange setup. They were living together. They were accusing one another of various things. That's not to say Robert's done anything wrong. He's never really, apart from what Lindsay said in the divorce, and we've never seen any evidence of that.
Yeah.
But I think you can conclude that it wasn't a great atmosphere for the children. And who are the victims here? It's the 3 kids, because her life has been disrupted heavily. And I know people will say, well, you shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's
tried
what
to kill
I
your
was
husband,
thinking.
right?
I mean, if she had actually
Yeah.
plotted to kill her husband.
Sure, but the process is often the punishment. In the event she was found guilty or they dropped it, she still paid, I think, a heavy price for spouting off about her husband and saying stupid things on text messages. If that's all it is,
Right.
She has paid a heavy price for that. And I do think, as I said to you, I think there's been selfish behaviour. You've got 3 kids involved. How does it serve their interests? What's going on? I mean, she could miss their entire childhood if she goes to prison. Well, half their lives if she goes to prison for 30 to 60 years. So I feel incredibly sorry for those kids, because,
Of course, yeah.
This is like the worst divorce times 1,000.
So will reporters be allowed in a trial when it happens?
Yeah, they've got
Cameras?
I think that they're typically not, but I think that there were moves to ask for permission previously, and it could happen. But I don't know.
And it could be years from now. I mean, it just keeps getting delayed.
It could be years from now. That's the thing. Like, in the event these people are found innocent, their lives have stalled for many, many years. And even if they're found guilty, in what way does it really serve justice that everyone is forced to wait years and years to find out the truth?
Yeah.
Because the kids are in limbo. They don't know whether mum is going to prison for 30 years or whether mum is just going to carry on being mum. So I just think, I'm not saying that everyone in this case has behaved well by any means. I think there's been bad behaviour, people have behaved selfishly, and they haven't thought about the children, which are the most important, for me, most important people involved in this. When people have affairs and they do this kind of stuff, this is not they're thinking of themselves, they're not thinking of the kids. So it doesn't seem fair that ultimately the kids, for me, seem like the ones that are going to suffer the most if she goes to prison for 20, 30 years. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sure people will say you're making excuses for her. But who does it actually serve, this case? Is it in the interest of the public? Is there a threat to the public?
Unless she really was trying to kill her husband.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I say,
We'll see.
If more comes out and there was much more going on and it was much more devious and much more substantial and she genuinely was trying to kill him, of course she's going to pay the ultimate prize. She'll go to prison for decades.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, when the trial finally happens, I'll join you in the Bahamas.
Yeah, it'd be
And
good.
we'll cover the trial together.
Definitely.
All right, thank you, Ben.
Cheers.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll keep you posted.